Hello everyone, this is Lynn from Holistic Health and Wellness, and I'm excited today to have on our podcast Brew. She is a published author, a keynote speaker, and a life balance strategist, empowerment coach. So she has a BA in psychology and a master's degree in organizational leadership and human resources, and she is a life coach, and she has training and personal experience in that. She delivers a personalized coaching experience to help her clients gain more control of their lives, achieve balance, and design the lives that they were meant to love, which are fulfilled, confident, and joyful, and free from what's holding them back. So following a rewarding career as a human resources manager, Alma went on to develop a childcare business to be fully involved in the daily care of her children. And she became so committed to the care of her children that she lost herself for years. Those of you that have children fully understand that. So she found her way back to a balanced and purposeful life, and she now is on a mission to help other struggling women find balance in their lives. So she delves into the root causes of the imbalance in her clients' lives to educate, empower, and coach them so that they can transform and their lives can become more balanced and purposeful. So Alma, we are so excited to have you here with us tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And where are you joining us from?
So I live in New Hampshire, so I'm up north.
And where are you from originally?
So I was born in Ghana, went to school in Ghana, and then I moved to France before moving to the
Oh,
United States. So
wonderful.
I have had the privilege to live on 3 continents.
Yes. So whereabouts in France were you based?
In Lyon.
I love France. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we are going to delve in tonight about one of the things that I think is a problem for women, I know you do too, is this Superwoman syndrome.
Yep.
So let's set a basis here and explain to our listeners just what is the Superwoman syndrome.
All right. So, we live in a world where women have to wear different caps. And when I say different caps, we're talking about different responsibilities. Now you have, initially we had the traditional woman who was a homemaker. So all she did was stay at home, take care of the kids, and do housekeeping at home and run the house. But now, of course, because of money, because of living standards, women have to get out of the house too. And also now women are more passionate. So now we have women who have Superwoman syndrome. And when I talk about Superwoman syndrome, I mean that, this is the woman who is trying to do everything. She feels she needs to do everything. And she doesn't only feel like she needs to do everything, but she needs to do it to perfection. So you have a woman who is trying to keep the home, be a perfect mom, be a perfect housekeeper, be a perfect cook, be a perfect wife, and then also is pursuing a career. So she's trying to get that promotion at work, and she's trying to be the perfect employee. And on top of it, now some of these women also are going to school, trying to pursue other degrees and trying to get better. And also they take on other responsibilities because, of course, they're trying to be the perfect friend. So then they'll volunteer to help a friend with a project, or maybe they're trying to be a perfect community member. So they're trying to, do everything in the community. And so they're doing all these things. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. The difference here is that the woman with Superwoman syndrome neglects her physical, emotional, and psychological health. So it's okay for a woman to want to do all these things. And it's fine. It's good for women to pursue their passions and their dreams. But at the end of the day, are you doing it at the expense of your physical, emotional, and psychological health? That's the difference. So women who have Superwoman syndrome they just go, 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 go. And they're doing all these things. And outside they look like, oh, this woman is so accomplished. And, she's doing so well when she manages her home. She has a husband. Everybody just gives them compliments. But deep within, they're really suffering because, they're not taking care of themselves. So
Right.
that is what Superwoman syndrome is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so many of us in our society these days, that is the majority of women. And so many of those women, some of them have help in the home from their husbands, some of them don't. But it's really that perfectionism in us that drives us totally crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
coming from England myself, you know, we were taught to do all of that and then not show how you feel.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so you're going a little crazy inside, but you really don't know how to let it go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. And that's the hard part because I grew up in a culture like that too.
yeah,
So it's like there's a standard that has been set for you as a woman, and you need to live up to that standard. And it's like your mom teaches you have to be all put together. So that's why you get out of the house, you have your makeup on, you have
yeah,
your nice face on, and you're smiling, and everything looks like you've got it together. But in reality, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, but you have to try to keep it all together because you don't want to look like a weak woman.
right.
Yeah.
And especially in this day and age, because women have really climbed the ladder and found their own powerful self.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really created even more of that syndrome to be apparent, I think, in society, not just here in the US, but so
Yep.
many different parts of the world. So let's talk about, so why do some women have Superwoman syndrome?
So, usually the number one reason women have superwoman syndrome is because they don't want to be perceived as failures or as weak people. Again, like we already said, maybe their society has taught them to have it all together. So even when things are too much for them, they still need to try to act like they have it all together. Um, Also, some women have superwoman syndrome because they just cannot say no. They have a problem with saying no. And saying no is hard because they don't want to be perceived as the bad woman. Because, women are brought up to feel like you need to be nurturing, you need to be a good person, you need to have an open arm for everybody because women are feminine. So even when things are too much for them, they still say yes when people come their way to do stuff. When in reality, their cup is full. But they can't. They just can't say no. Say no is a problem. And such women also have a lot of guilt, so when they find themselves relaxing or taking time off or just sitting down doing nothing, they feel guilty. They feel like, oh, I need to be working. I need to be working. They have that constant urge to be doing something all the time. So, that guilt is also part of it. They have that woman guilt. And some of these women are also perfectionists. So it's kind of like they cannot delegate to anybody. Because they feel like the people that they're going to delegate to are not going to be able to do it as they
Right,
expect it to be done. So
right.
what happens is that then, okay, I'm just going to, take care of it. Even when I'm tired, even when I can't do it anymore, I'm just going to keep doing it because I can't trust anybody to delegate it to. I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to come out perfectly. And some of these women also have low self-esteem.
Mm,
So, in trying to do everything and look all perfect and get that promotion and pursue that career and pursue that degree and trying to come out as the perfect mom or the perfect wife, and they're trying to be perfect at everything because that's the way of them boosting their self-esteem. It helps them
mhm,
feel good. When they're able to achieve these things, they feel like, oh, I'm accomplished, I'm good enough, I'm
right.
good, I feel good about myself. So these are some of the reasons why some women have superwoman. So some also just want attention. So usually, that's why they'll go to work and they'll volunteer for everything that the boss
Mm,
wants to
mm,
get done, because that's the only way they can show that, hey, I'm here, I exist, I want to get recognized. And in their community or maybe in their churches or in their groups, they want to always stand out and do stuff and be the woman who is always taking charge of things and getting things done and is all over the place, because it gives them that attention. And they do get the attention. That's the thing, because they get
right,
recognized that, ooh,
right.
this woman is an accomplished woman. She's a woman who is always ready to help and is always ready to do stuff. But in reality, they're doing it against their own health. And that's where the issue comes in,
And
you know?
sometimes I think it's an act of obligation, and sometimes they just don't know how to say no. And
Yep.
it is really hard to learn how to say no to people because
Yep.
that's all tied up again in our self-esteem.
Yep. Yep. And one of the women that I work with, I do one-on-one coaching and I have
Right.
group coaching. So yesterday, even in my group coaching class, one of the women actually brought it up that saying no is the biggest problem, because anytime she has to say no and rejects somebody's help, like need for help, they feel like they're a bad person. They feel like, oh, I'm a bad, and then they spend the whole week feeling so bad. Even when they see this person, it's like, I feel so bad because I couldn't help. So sometimes women need to be coached to become more assertive, where, you know, you can say no and let the person know, who I can't do it now, but I can do it at this other time if that works for you. You know, that way you're actually showing whoever is asking you to do whatever they want you to do that you really want to do it. You just can't do it now because you're tied up or your plate is full. You know, but if you're ready to let me do it another time when things are better, I'm happy to do it. So assertiveness is one thing that a lot of women have an issue with. You know, they just can't express themselves so the other person can see that they are not bad people. And then they end up getting that guilt that I was talking about because they feel bad for saying no. You know, it's hard.
It
Yeah.
is hard. I've been there myself and got myself in lots of trouble because I couldn't say no and took on way too much. Yeah.
Yes, and that is one of the disadvantages of women who have superwoman, because they have a lot of broken relationships and a lot of disappointed friends and family members and, you know, acquaintances, because everybody comes with their problem and they show that, oh, I can help. Oh, I can help.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're saying I can help without even realizing what actually really goes into this help that they're trying to help people. And at the end of the day, because their cup is so full, they are not able to come through. And even when they're able to come through, they're not able to do it to the expectation of what this person expects them to do. So then people end up feeling disappointed sometimes because it's like, oh, you promised you were going to help me and you couldn't do it as I expected you to do it. And the people don't even realize that it's because this woman is actually going around doing everything for everybody and trying to be everything to everybody. You know, so it gets us. I have been through it too before. It gets us into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it does for
Yep.
sure. And I know we've kind of touched on this a bit, but explain again or in further depth some of the effects of this superwoman syndrome.
Okay. So when a woman keeps pushing herself and she keeps going and going and going and she's trying to be everything for everybody. I work with women and I used to be like that too. Monday to Sunday, they're doing something. There's nothing like a day off. They wake up, they're the first to wake up in the morning and they're the last to go to sleep. And it's a constant cycle. So Monday to Sunday, like the whole month is like going, going, going for them. And when a woman keeps doing that, she doesn't realize that she's actually expending energy. You know, so that is where taking care of yourself comes in. So when she doesn't take care of herself, by the 4th week, by the 5th week, when it's entering into 2 months, you're going to start getting burnt out and stressed out. And that is when they start, you know, you can either go into a full burnout where it's like you just can't do it anymore, or then it starts affecting your moods, it starts affecting your eating, you know, it starts affecting your energy levels and even your motivation to do anything because you're just plain too tired. You've pushed yourself too hard. You know, and when that happens, yes, sometimes it would slow down to recover and then they're up again doing it again. So you see women who are in constant cycles of burnout because they just can't, you know, regulate themselves and live a life where they can be more balanced. And I'm not saying you have to have a perfect balance, but I'm talking about balance in the sense of, you know, thinking about yourself as you take on activities and as you go about your day to make sure that you're replenishing your energy, because whatever you're giving out is energy, and energy out needs to be replaced. If not, when you keep going out, your cup is going to be empty. And when your cup is empty, you cannot pour out of an empty cup, as I always say. So burnout is the biggest effect of superwoman syndrome. And a lot of the women in my coaching program would come and they're so tired and they're so exhausted. And it's like, I can't do this anymore. You know, life is so unbearable. And it's funny because they don't realize that they're actually doing this to themselves. They think the world is doing it to them. That's the problem here. So until I'm able to sit them down and actually go over it and tell them, hey, let's look at your schedule. Let's look at what life looks like on an everyday basis. And usually by the time we're able to go through their whole schedule and their weekly schedule and what's been going on for the past few months, they realize, they get an aha moment and they're like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this to myself because I'm just going, and there's nothing. And these women are women when women have Superwoman syndrome, they're so perfect. I mean, they're perfectionists to the point where they have a perfect schedule. These are women who have planners and stuff like that. So their schedule is all planned out. Oh, on Monday we're doing this. After that, I'm going to this program and I'm going to this event and I'm doing this and I'm taking my daughter here and we have a doctor's appointment. So they are busy scheduling for everybody by themselves. You know, so that's where the issue comes in. So when I show it to them and we're able to go through their schedule, that's when they realize that, oh dear, I am actually doing myself a lot of disservice because I'm busy doing all these things and I've forgotten that I actually need to be taken care of.
And
the
it's
burnout
not
is
even
hard.
It is, and it's not even when people are just say in their 30s and they're really striving to get that career moving, or they're back in school. It's even women when their kids have left home, because then you start another phase in life with grandchildren, and then we push ourselves to get those grandchildren in and do super grandma stuff then, as well as Superwoman stuff. So I mean, it's not just, I mean, it's every phase of our life. It doesn't seem to stop.
Yep.
So and I see that you've got self-care is not selfish, and that's something that I tell my clients often, because our society really teaches us that it's selfish to take time for ourselves, but if we don't, then we get the burnout. We are so stressed that it's crazy. So give us a few ways how women in this situation can handle this and help prevent the burnout.
Okay. So so for me, the number one thing that I do with my clients is self-care. And when I talk about self-care, I'm not just talking about the superficial self-care, because when people hear self-care, they think it's that luxurious trip to the spa or going on that fancy vacation. No, I'm talking about everyday self-care. And everyday self-care in the sense of making sure that you are actually allocating time for yourself in your schedule every day. Some of my clients will come and they will tell me, oh, I'm too busy. You know, I have 4 kids and I have a job and I'm going to school. So there's no way I can make time for self-care for myself. But usually when we go through their schedule, we realize that they have a few loopholes there, maybe 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And at the end of the day, they would have done 1 hour of self-care, even though it wasn't a full hour, you know, of just having time for themselves. And sometimes I'm like, hey, you're the earliest to wake up. When you wake up, can you take even 15 minutes just to breathe, just to do a little meditation or something? And I always tell people that our schedule is full of 2 types of tasks. We have drainers and we have fillers. Drainers are the things that drain you of your energy. So these are the things that you're running around doing that at the end of doing them, you feel so tired and you feel so exhausted. And then the fillers are the things that fill us up. Those are the things that, you know, fill you up. At the end of doing them, you feel so fulfilled, you feel so relaxed, you feel so de-stressed, you feel like, oh, you know, I feel like I can now get up and go and do other things. So you need to make sure that you're having the right amount of fillers and drainers on your schedule. So that's what I call the drainers and fillers way of self-care. So it's, when I talk self-care, it's not that fancy vacation. Yes, you can take the fancy vacation at the right time, but what if the right time never comes? Are you still going to wait till then? No, you can actually do something now, today, you know. So it's a matter of taking that time off for yourself. And again, I'm not talking, you can start with increments of 10 minutes, you know, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening, and that gives you 30 minutes. And that sometimes just that 30 minutes is enough to actually replenish a little bit of that energy. And I usually use the cell phone as an example, that when you have a cell phone and the battery dies, it becomes useless. It doesn't matter how expensive the cell, even if you bought it for $1,000, it's not useful to you anymore. But when you have a cell phone and the battery tells you, oh, you have 15% more, and even though you are so busy, you're not able to sit down and plug it in for about 20 hours to get, 20 minutes or 1 hour to get it fully charged. Just by plugging it in for 10 minutes, you're able to get the battery up to like another 10% extra, and that could take you through your day until you get
Mm-hmm.
home and you're able to actually, plug it in overnight and get it fully charged. So that's how self-care works. When you have not been able to get that chance to get the time off and do that big self-care thing, how about you just start doing little increments of 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and that's a way of getting you going, so you don't actually cross over and do the full burnout thing. So it kind of like keeps you going. It's kind of like your battery's dying, but you don't want it to die, so you're just keeping it, afloat, so you actually can get that time to do that big self-care thing. And when I also talk about self-care, I'm not just talking about physical self-care. I talk about spiritual self-care. I talk about mental self-care, emotional self-care. And a lot of people, when they hear self-care, they're only focused on the physical. But you need to take care of yourself, your emotions. As you go through your daily activities, emotions come up. Some of them get you angry. Some things get you mad. Something gets you upset. Find the way of letting all these emotions out, taking care of all these emotions. And when I talk about I have social self-care. Do you have meaningful relationships? Or are you only engrossed in toxic and stressful relationships? You need to build a support system that is meaningful and that that people that you spend time with, and at the end of spending time with them, even if it's just a matter of talking to them on the phone for 5 minutes, you feel happy because they always have something nice to say, or there's an energy that you get from them that just makes you feel good at the end of talking to them. And that people that after talking to them for just a minute, you're done. They just drain you of all the positive energy that you have. So usually with my clients, we actually go through all that. We talk about their emotional self-care, their physical self-care, the spiritual self-care, and all these different types of self-care. Because to have a good self-care routine that's going to sustain you, and a practical self-care routine, you need to know exactly what you're doing in each area to fill yourself up. And then when you're able to figure it out, then we can figure out where we can plug all these little self-care activities into your daily activities to get you going. So self-care for me is the number one thing I work with my client when it comes to Superwoman syndrome. Yeah.
And I think some women probably have the misconception, as you say, it's great if you can go get a massage. In this COVID, I would not be going getting myself a massage.
I know, right?
Yeah. So really, I think they think of it as a big thing where you've actually got to go out there and do something big, and that's great. But there's all these little things that you can do throughout the day. And it was the same thing for a lot of my clients. One of the things I teach them when they don't hydrate or they don't get up and move around to get the juices flowing in the body again, I often tell them, set a reminder on your telephone. You've always got your phone in front of you. And even if you're just taking 5 minutes, as you say, to kind of take your mind and your physical self, even maybe get out of the building, just something to get away. And really that does recharge you, and it doesn't have to take a long time.
Yeah, that's true. And it's always good to start with the baby steps because you already have a lot on your plate. So you don't want to set too big a goal. When I started self-care, honestly, again, like I said, I have had that issue with Superwoman syndrome. That's why I choose to work in this area, because I have personal experience in it, apart from my life coach training and my background and education. And I realized that when I started my journey to taking care of myself, the goal, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take a day off every week and I'm going to have somebody come watch my kids because I'm a mom of twins. So it's hard.
Gosh.
Yes. So, and so I had somebody coming in, at least for 1 month. I had somebody coming in for at least 5 to 6 hours on Mondays so I could take my Monday off. But it was expensive, having somebody come all the time. So that's when I started thinking about the easy way I can actually start doing the self-care thing, but not spending too much money and not feeling like it takes too much for me to do it. So that's when I started the little 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. So now it's like I try to do 30 minutes in the morning before the kids wake up. And then during the day, when COVID wasn't here and they were going to school, when I go to pick them up from school, I have a whole 15 minutes where I'm just sitting at the parking lot doing nothing. And initially, this is 15 minutes where I'll just browse Facebook or do something unnecessary. But now I use that 15 minutes to listen to something that relaxes me. 15 minutes of meditation meditation. And by the time these kids come out, I'm all ready to take them in, you know? Yeah, so then that's how I started doing it. And then when they go to bed, I make sure they're getting to bed by 8 o'clock. So then I have another 1 hour with my 30 minutes with my husband where we can, talk about the day and everything. And now my husband sometimes will go to bed before me because I'm like, hey, I actually need to take another extra 15 or 20 minutes for myself just to also de-stress and even go over my day, see how the day went, plan for tomorrow, relax, do something that I love. And sometimes I'll read a book or I'll listen to a worship music. I love worship music. So I'll listen
Yes,
to
me
worship
too.
music on YouTube or maybe a preaching or something that, kind of motivates me and helps me feel good, at the end of a stressful day. And this is how I've done it. So after doing it for a year, that's when I realized that, this thing actually really works. I might as well start selling it to people, So I call it that, self-care 1 minute at a time. That's what I call it because, you don't need to you want to do, maybe you feel like, I need to get a whole day off or I need to get a whole week off. No, let's start it 1 day at a time and 1 minute at a time. Even if it's 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes midday, 5 minutes in the afternoon, just start like that. And when you start getting into that routine, you realize that you start feeling better. You're like, I want to do this some more. I want to do it some more, and it becomes part of you. And then you have that, like you said, even if it means setting a reminder every 4 hours, just to remind yourself to take even 5 minutes off just to relax. With time, it becomes part of you because you're making that conscious effort to get this thing going. And then you start thinking about, because the thing is, when I wasn't doing self-care, it's not because I didn't want it. I just didn't realize that I needed it. And a lot of these women have that issue. They don't realize it, that it's something that they actually need to do. So when you start setting those reminders and doing those 5 minutes at a time, with time, your unconscious mind starts telling you, hey, this is part of you. This is your routine. The same way you wake up in the morning and you get your kids ready for school and you brush your teeth and you take a bath, you take a shower and you go to work. It's a routine. So it becomes part of your daily routine,
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like with exercise that people say the same thing. I don't have time for it. And really, you can take 10 minutes to start with and just do something to move. And then it does, the more you do it, the more the routine builds up. But that's a great stress reliever if people can just get outside for 10 minutes and kind of hard in Florida sometimes. If you don't make it before 8 o'clock in the morning, then you may not want to go out. But just seeing nature and breathing in fresh air can really do wonders for you.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, I like the way that you say it's not just about physical self-care. I mean, it's the emotional and the spiritual. It's every part of us. It's really like that's where the holistic part of it comes in because it takes everything. So people may be strong in one area but not so strong in another. But the college I went to, they taught us the circle of life wheel.
Exactly.
Yes. And if you start looking at that and seeing where you're weak, then you've really got to build on that.
Exactly. And it's funny because, I have my book coming out soon, and one of the chapters actually talks about the self-care wheel. So I turned the circle of life into a self-care wheel where you actually make sure you're checking all these areas of self-care to see where you're lacking. Because you could find a woman who is so healthy, like, she's healthy, she eats well, takes care of her body, but emotionally she's a wreck because she feels like self-care is just about working out and eating healthy. So I turned that life wheel into the self-care wheel where you're making sure that you're not, you wouldn't have a perfect wheel. That's true. But you should make sure that at least you're nurturing some areas of your life. I mean, all these areas of your lives. Sometimes you go like, okay, I'm doing so well in this area, but maybe spiritually, I think I'm getting weak. Let me spend, this week trying to grow a little bit spiritually or nurture my spiritual self-care so I can at least bring it up a little bit, So it is good. Yeah, that wheel is, I feel like it's a game changer.
Yeah, it is. So tell us about your book, Alma.
So I'm writing a book for self-care. It's the Businesswoman's Guide to Self-Care, and it's going to have a lot of these things that we've already spoken about. I'm trying to break down self-care. So, because I feel like self-care is a word that when people hear it, they think that it's it's a big thing. Like I said, the thing is that luxurious vacation, and it's something that they actually need to invest a lot of money and time into. So I'm trying to write a book for busy women to realize that you can actually do this holistic self-care, and you can do it 5 minutes at a time, or even 1 minute at a time, and it's actually going to get you the results that you need. And also
Right.
to highlight the importance of self-care. So it's a journal style book where it's kind of like a self-help book. So each
Mm,
chapter has journal questions where you can actually think about it, and then try to implement whatever has been spoken in that chapter into your life. So it's kind of taking my life coaching practice and turning it into a book.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put your links in our show notes today so that your website will be on there. And I'm assuming that we can check back on your website and you'll have it on there when your book's been published.
Yes. And then I
Great.
also have a burnout guide on my website. When you go to empoweredforbalance.com/burnout, you can get it. It's a free guide that I give to
Okay.
everybody, and it's the burnout self-check. So you can actually check how burnt out you are. And then it also has a lot of some journal questions there just to allow you to think about your life and see if you have to make any changes and start working on, yourself and taking care of yourself.
Great. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes as well.
Hmm.
And all of your social media where people can get hold of you.
Hmm.
Um, and I know I'm going to check out your lead magnet because any help that we all can get with self-care is a bonus.
Yep. Yep.
So a lot of this really has come through your own personal experience.
Hmm.
That's great. And I think as coaches, that's how many of us are, that we've been through something and then we want to stop people from those same pitfalls that we found ourselves in
Yep.
so that they don't have to go through that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I love the way that you call yourself a life balance strategist and empowerment coach, because you really are empowering women to
Yeah.
find a better version of themselves, and you're
Hmm.
empowering them, as your sign says, I'm empowered for balance.
Yep.
Balance is so important.
Yep. And I'm redefining what it means to be an empowered woman because, again, society has trained a lot of women to try to be that superwoman. So they feel like if they are walking the shoes of a woman who has superwoman syndrome, then they are empowered. But I'm trying to get women to understand that being empowered is not that, but it's more about, taking care of yourself so that you can have that energy to make the most out of your skills, your abilities, your talents, your capabilities, and your opportunities, and then living a purposeful life, using all these talents to walk in a purposeful life and go after your dreams. So I always say I'm redefining what it means to be an empowered woman.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And I think that at any stage of our life, because I even feel like that at my age, still kind of trying to find in different phases of our lives what our life's purpose is and what empowers us to live the best life that we can.
Yeah.
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 So I really appreciate you coming on with us. I think that this is invaluable because this is something that women so need to know and so need to learn about. So please check out all of the show notes so that you can get that lead magnet and follow Arma. She probably has a lot more information on her website than we've even touched on here.
Hmm.
But I really appreciate you being here and appreciate you talking to a group of women who want to live life naturally and holistically,
Yep.
and look forward to chatting with you again sometime pretty soon.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me, Lynn. And I really appreciate the
Thanks.
time spending with you.
Thanks. It's been great.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Take care.